From Stewie stealing dog DNA to impregnate himself to Brian overdosing on shrooms, here are the Trippiest Family Guy episodes, starting with back to the pilot. Talk about truth in advertising. This episode is a trip, like a literal one in time. Stewie and Brian decide to time travel back to the very first episode of the series, Death Has a Shadow. The reason? Brian wants to find a ball he peed on ages ago to make other dogs in the neighborhood jealous.
Yeah, but don't tell the other dogs in the neighborhood. They'll be jealous.
You son of a bitch.
Duh. What other reason did you think? Luckily, Brian remembers the exact day he buried the ball, so when did they go back to? January 31st, 1999, the date of the airing of the first episode. The guys are literally transported to the first episode, cheap animation and all. When you see the new style Stewie and Brian paired up with the old style of the show, it's real trippy.
That's odd. It's our house, but somehow it looks a little different.
Brian starts commenting on everything from the look of old Stewie to the actor that voiced Meg in the pilot.
Oh my god, what's with Meg's voice? She sounds like someone who's about to give up a huge opportunity.
The two find the ball and try to get back to their own time, but as it always happens, their time machine drained its batteries too quickly. Right, normal stuff. Eventually, they find batteries, get back to their own timeline, but things are a bit odd.
Brian, what the hell did you do?
Turns out, Brian told himself about 9/11. Again, normal stuff. But how can that be bad?
How could that possibly be a bad thing? I mean, come on, I saved like 200 lives.
3,000.
Wow, 3,000?
You see, without 9/11, George W. Bush loses the 2004 election, creates a second Confederacy, and sparks a second Civil War. The two do some more traveling in time, wanting to see how everything turned out, and they discover that America's become a full-on CGI apocalyptic wasteland.
Brian, you might want to look outside.
My God.
Hey, at least Joe became a Terminator and got some metal legs and robotic eyes, and if things weren't trippy enough, this is Frogmire.
Ribbity.
Back to time traveling to the beginning of this episode to turn things around. Whatever you do, don't watch this under the influence. Oh, and did I mention that Brian somehow becomes the author of the Harry Potter books along the way? Classic. It all spirals into a ridiculous mess of multiple Stewies and Brians from different futures until they finally manage to set things right, or so they think. If messing with the timeline wasn't trippy enough, the next episode takes the concept of alternate realities to a whole new level. Road to the multiverse.
You ever heard of the multiverse theory, Brian?
Well, of course I have, but I'm wondering if you have.
Yeah, you've seen this one coming. Road to the Multiverse is, after all, one of the most famous and strangest episodes of Family Guy. You guessed it, here's your prize.
Congratulations, son. You've won a genuine live homosexual.
Stewie and Brian, once again at the center of the madness, go hopping through parallel universes, and we're not talking about subtle changes, oh no. Each universe is more insane than the last, with its own strange theme or wild twist. It all kicks off at the Quahog Clam Day Fair, when Stewie shows off his freakishly muscular pig.
Oink.
Obviously, Brian gets curious about how he managed to create such a beast. Naturally, Stewie pulls out a remote control and starts talking about the multiverse theory, because why not? The two then embark on a whirlwind journey through multiple parallel dimensions, and things get real trippy real fast. One of the stops is a universe where Christianity never existed, and without the Dark Ages slowing things down, society's progressed far beyond what we know.
Oh, I got AIDS again. Better take my NyQuil cold flu and AIDS.
Oh, and Meg's attractive in this universe, so you know it's bizarre. But that's just the start. They visit universes inspired by the Flintstones, Disney, Robot Chicken, and even one where every single person has to poop at the same time because Family Guy, of course. Eventually, they stumble into a world where dogs rule over humans. Brian naturally loves it because of course he would. But when he and Stewie end up losing the remote, things start to unravel. Before long, Stewie's almost euthanized at the dog pound, and human Brian makes a final leap into this reality, hoping to make something of himself.
Ah, look at him go. Free in a world of his own kind, where he can finally reach the full potential. Oh my god, he got hit by a car!
This episode is a crazy mix of different animation styles, hilarious moments, and quintessential dark humor ending that fans love. If you thought Family Guy fans couldn't come up with something that crazy, wait until you see Family Guy viewer mail number 1. This episode is a full-on fever dream split into 3 shorts that feel like they came straight out of a very strange suggestion box. Apparently, these were ideas from viewers, and honestly, it shows. The episode kicks off with no bones about it. Peter finds a genie because why not? And after some random wishes, he decides that the best way to avoid getting beaten up is to become boneless. He turns into a pile of, well, Peter flavored jello. Weird, disgusting, and dare I say, weirdly disgusting.
Well, I guess we could all adjust to this.
Look, I'm making an angel.
Watching him flop around is hilarious, but when you turn your adult brain on, it's also disturbing. The guy's so limp, he literally slides down a drain to escape. Eventually, Hollywood embraces him. Go figure. But even boneless Peter can't resist missing his family.
Oh, so this is where all the waste and sewage winds up.
He gets his bones back, but with a Frankenstein-like twist. Peter takes a procedure to put all of his bones in place, but as his family comes to visit him in the hospital, he finds out they're all now boneless from donating bones for his surgery.
The operation was a complete success.
They all lived boneless ever after, I guess. Then there's Super Griffins, where the entire Griffin family gets exposed to toxic waste, and instead of dying or developing serious health issues like real life, they each develop unique superpowers. Stewie's head somehow gets even bigger, allowing him to move things with his mind. Chris turns into a fire starter with the power of thought, and Peter gains the ability to shapeshift into literally anything. You'd think with all this power, they'd use it for good, but of course, it's the Griffins we're talking about. Stewie's out here stealing candy with his telekinesis. Lois is lifting cars out of traffic and crushing a few in the process, and Peter, well, he turns into Britney Spears just to mess with Justin Timberlake. What else could he do? They eventually take over Quahog until Mayor Adam West tries to stop them by dumping toxic waste on himself.
Citizens, I'm off to the toxic waste dump.
Spoiler, it doesn't work, he just gets cancer.
Mayor West, you have lymphoma.
Oh my.
Thankfully, the Griffins feel extra bad for the situation and they learned a lesson. The last section of Little Griffins is kind of cutesy and kind of trippy. The characters are reimagined as little kids. Peter, with his trademark arrogance, competes with Quagmire to win the attention of the new girl, Lois. They decide that the best way to impress her is by spending the night in a haunted house.
Cleveland, you mind stepping out of the way? Oh, sorry.
Things start off with the kids trying to scare each other, but the real fun kicks in when they realize there's an actual ghost in the house. It's pretty much Scooby-Doo-ish and actual normal compared to the last two viewer suggestions. Let's get back to the weirdness train. As you know, anything goes in Quahog, like Stewie getting pregnant in Stewie is Enciente. Wait, what? I just realized that a lot of these episodes feature Stewie and Brian. They're definitely the weirdest dynamic duo out there, but there's nothing dynamic about this partnership. Feeling like his friendship with Brian is on the rocks, Stewie hatches a plan that only he could think of.
That's how Brian and I are going to improve our relationship. We're going to have a baby.
Does this mean they... No! Thank God almighty, no! Instead, Stewie steals Brian's DNA and impregnates himself. Yeah, Stewie pulls off a miracle of modern science, and the next thing you know, he's carrying a bunch of Stewie-Brian hybrid babies. Things really kick into high gear with Stewie sharing his good news with Brian, who reacts exactly how you'd expect, sheer horror.
Brian, we're pregnant. Oh my God. And in 18 years, he's going to move away.
And honestly, who wouldn't be horrified? I mean, there are the implications.
People are gonna think I had with a male baby and then got him pregnant.
Moving on. Brian, quite normally, tries to convince Stewie to get an abortion, which Stewie definitely isn't down for. Instead, we're treated to the wild ride of Stewie going through all the stages of pregnancy. There's prenatal care, baby clothes shopping, and, of course, taking a series of pictures with mommy and daddy. Yeah, I'm disturbed as well, viewer. Eventually, Stewie's water breaking at McBurger Town. And just when you think it couldn't get more disturbing, Stewie gives birth in Brian's car, not to one baby, but a litter of freaky little Stewie-Brian hybrids. The two try to raise the kids, but when they realize how expensive and demanding it is, they do the most responsible thing possible. They drop the hybrids off at an animal shelter.
This is for the best.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll be adopted.
That's just another day in the Family Guy universe, where ditching mutant babies is somehow just par for the course. If that wasn't psychedelic enough, here's an actual psychedelic trip in the Seahorse Seashell Party. You ever get stuck inside during a storm and think, you know what would make this better? A little psychedelic trip. Well, Brian sure did. Let's just say it leads to one of Family Guy's most bizarre and unsettling episodes.
These are mushrooms. It's a psychedelic drug. Makes you see weird things, feel happy for a few hours.
The Seahorse Seashell Party doesn't take us far from home. The Griffins are stuck in the house due to a hurricane, but the chaos that unfolds is a real mind-bender. Brian, clearly bored out of his mind, decides to munch on some mushrooms, and things get trippy fast. I mean, at one point, the guy cuts off his own ear.
Oh God! Oh God!
Yeah, we're talking that level of weird. Stewie plays babysitter as Brian's hallucinations take him on a horrifying ride through his mind.
Just relax and get some rest.
We see cartoon characters roasting Peter, Stewie as a killer bee, and Lois as a snake offering sex to Brian. Your usual afternoon trip, I'd say. Meanwhile, the rest of the family just keeps doing what they do best, picking on Meg. But this time, Meg has had enough, and she absolutely snaps on everyone. And what follows is a full-blown verbal smackdown. Meg's rant is so brutal that it leaves Lois devastated, Peter completely clueless, and Chris, she tears into each of them with a viciousness that only years of built-up frustration can fuel. Even Stewie can't help but throw in a small protest when Peter's faults are listed.
Jeez, look at those two. They're going at each other like an Italian guy and a black woman.
By the end of her outburst, the whole family is in shambles, leaving Meg to reflect on whether her role in the family is to absorb their abuse so they can keep it together. It's one of the darkest and most twisted episodes of the show, and it all happens while Brian is tripping and Meg is tearing the family to pieces. Now, that is a weird night in, and we end things on a useful PSA.
To learn more about drugs, visit your local library. There's probably a guy behind there who sells drugs.
From psychedelic trips to Meg's epic breakdown, things have been strange so far, but now we're heading into some seriously dirty territory. Let's dig into the splendid source.
This is the story of a great adventure that happened to me and some of my pals.
This episode starts off as what could be the strangest road trip ever.
It all began innocently enough with my stupid wife showing me some dumbass brochure.
Because, when you think about it, hunting for the origin of dirty jokes feels like something only Family Guy could pull off. After Chris gets suspended for telling an inappropriate joke at school, Peter and the gang embark on a journey that escalates from a simple curiosity to, well, something you'd expect from a secret society of genius joke writers hidden on a remote island.
Oh God, I pooped my pants.
And did I mention every time Peter hears this joke, he has to go to the bathroom? What starts as Peter just trying to figure out where Quagmire heard this dirty joke turns into a full-blown mission.
We go on a quest to find the source of the world's dirty jokes. Who's with me?
We've got pit stops, dodging bullets in Washington, D.C., and eventually getting kidnapped and taken to an island. But this isn't any ordinary island.
What the hell is this place?
It is that which you have been seeking, gentlemen.
This is home to the Secret Order of Dirty Joke Writers, a group of brilliant minds who, apparently, craft and distribute every dirty joke you've ever heard. It's like a weird, inappropriate version of the Illuminati, except with more fart jokes. In classic Family Guy fashion, things only get more ridiculous from there. Peter tries to pull an escape by...
Hey, Cleveland, you got a pencil on you?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Oh, wait, here you go. Thanks. Ah! What the hell? Hey, help!
Yeah, doing that. Don't worry, it works. And as they're about to meet their doom, Peter snags what's supposedly the greatest dirty joke ever written. After barely escaping a massive explosion, they return to Quahog, only to find that the legendary joke is...
Guess what? Chicken butt. That's it?
All of that chaos for a joke your uncle probably told you when you were 6, and somehow it's the perfect end to a totally wild, nonsensical adventure. We've already mentioned that most of these episodes are focused on the adventures of Brian and Stewie, so it's not so strange that the strangest on the list is called Brian and Stewie. Family Guy is known for its wild humor and absurd cutaways, but Brian and Stewie throws all of that out of the window. No music, no gags, no other characters, just these two locked in a bank vault, and things get real fast. The setup sounds like your typical Family Guy adventure.
Hello, we're locked in! Did you just crap your diaper?
I got scared when the door closed.
You see, even the jokes are vintage Family Guy, but instead of laughs, we get a deep dive into some of the darkest places the show's ever gone. It starts off with Stewie and Brian bickering over something silly like a sweater in Brian's safety deposit box, but before long, Stewie's threatening Brian with a gun and, well, forcing him to eat his poop.
But you have to swear never to tell anybody.
You mean you're gonna eat my... Yeah, no, I won't tell anybody, I swear.
Yeah, we've got some weird, gross moments out here, but that's just the surface.
Got some dessert for you.
You gotta be kidding me.
Come on, it's throw up. You like throw up.
The real twist is when Brian opens up about his depression and reveals that he's been carrying a gun because...
I keep it in case I ever want to commit. Okay.
For a show that usually leans on shock humor, this is a huge tonal shift. The jokes pause, and what we get instead is a surprisingly honest conversation about loneliness and the meaning of life. Brian admits he feels purposeless, and it's a heavy moment, especially for a character who just usually drinks martinis and makes snide remarks. The episode doesn't deliver what you'd expect from Family Guy, and that's what makes it trippy. It's not just the weird gross-out moments, it's the fact that the show goes from lowbrow to profound without warning. By the end, Stewie reminds Brian that he's his only real friend, and the two share an oddly touching moment.
I don't really care for anybody else, just you. You're the only one I like.
When the vault finally opens, the audience is left wondering if they've just watched an episode of Family Guy or stumbled into some alternate reality where the show gets this deep. It's an emotional roller coaster, as the kids say these days, and it stands out because of how serious and seriously weird it is for a show that usually thrives on chaos. Family Guy manages to hit every note, from mind-bending plots to surprisingly deep moments, and these episodes are a testament to just how weird things can get. Whether it's time travel or emotional therapy in a bank vault, the show's trippiest moments always keep us guessing. And hey, if you're still craving more Brian-related disasters, check out our episode on Brian Griffin's worst ever moments. I promise the jokes there aren't quite as rough as this one. Okay, I'm seeing myself out. Bye.